The time is now 5:01. Began the Normandy Schools Collaborative Joint Executive Board special session for this Monday, April 25th. Why don't we begin by roll call? Ms. Barnett?
Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Dr. Petty?
Here.
Mr. Hodge?
Here.
Mr. Humphrey?
Present.
Ms. Williams?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Why don't we proceed with item 1.02, I'm sorry, 1.03, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Of the
States
United States of America and to the republic,
Republic for which it stands,
One
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty,
liberty
justice
and justice for all.
these days.
Thank you, everyone. We'll proceed with item number 2, adoption of the agenda. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same privilege. All right, so the ayes have it. So item number 3, the consent agenda. There are 4 items, 3.01 through 3.04. All the information presented has been uploaded on board docs. The board members have had a chance to review it. These are the only items on our agenda today. With that, I will move to item number 4. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda item, removing 3.02 and 3.03.
Okay, 3.02 and 3.03. So there was a, there was a motion on the floor. There was heard the first, but was there no second?
I second.
All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded to adopt the consent agenda items as presented. So at this point, Dr. Petty, I think any questions? So proceed.
More so than questions, just a few comments that I have about those items, and I'll kind of share my concerns with them as it relates to 3.03. For us, there are a number of concerns with this particular agenda item, with the first of the concerns being the residual costs that have been identified for the item in addition to the original upfront costs. The concern is that this, in essence, constitutes the district paying a premium for teachers with no real guarantee around teacher quality or teacher performance. As it relates to international hires, an additional concern with regard to the teacher preparation programs, where these teachers are credentialed and licensed, can sometimes cause a concern. And most importantly, when you look at the students that we serve in the Normandy Schools footprint, we really need to have some assurances around candidate competency levels as it relates to culturally relevant instruction. And when you talk about international hires, there's already going to be a cultural barrier there on top of the need to be able to immerse yourself in culturally relevant instruction for the students of Normandy. This creates a language barrier as well. It impedes opportunities for these particular candidates to build rapport with our students. And I think that those grant dollars, when you talk to other HR departments and other educational professionals, there are other ways for those grant dollars to be utilized without residual costs for the district and without the risk of the concerns and things that could potentially develop with regard to these foreign hires. And then also, I think that on more than one occasion, I've heard Phil Pusateri talk about, the potential for a budget shortfall in the future. So I just think that we need to be mindful of approving those agenda items that could represent additional costs that may or may not be funds or monies that we have in the budget. As it relates to 3.02, it's a supplemental program, and we really need to look at a more comprehensive approach to the core health and wellness needs of the district. We need to look at a program that looks at organizational health from the standpoint of both students and staff. When you talk about the impact of the pandemic, because we all know that the impact of the pandemic that affected and impacted both students and staff. So we need something that's a comprehensive approach to the organizational health of the district. A lot of what this program consists of is not necessarily complex or new information. It's not necessarily information that's not what would be considered common knowledge. So it can be easily accessed by current district professionals, and then looking at the strengths of the program, perhaps put together something that would be more of a tailored fit to the individual needs of each building in the Normandy School District. Because when we think about the impacts of the pandemic and we think about health and wellness, we're not going to have the same needs for every single building. And so we don't want a blanket approach to addressing that. We want to look more at, a tailored fit and individualized individualized manner in which to address these issues as they arise in each of the individual buildings. Also, some of these programs have a need for some professional development that may have to happen for teachers, and this too could represent additional costs. So for these reasons, I would not be in support of passage of either of those measures, 3.02 and 3.03.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
I just want to offer a point of clarity. 3.02 is the thought exchange module, which is used by our communications department. At the last meeting, Human Resources did put forward a wellness module, but I don't think that's it. Sharifa, you mind chiming in on what thought exchange adds to your communication strategy?
Yes, Thought Exchange is a product that we've been affiliated with for a couple of years now. And it's a community engagement tool where it's a survey plus. And so you're able to gauge the, just what it says, the thoughts and the emotions and the sentiments of your stakeholders. And the bonus is you not only get their open-ended feedback, but they can also comment on the other respondents' feedback. And so it's a community engagement tool. We've used it internally and externally. And so that's what this is. And in light of some of the upcoming projects, specifically the bond issue, and just in order to get an accurate pulse on what's going on internally, that's why we would like to continue with it. Now, we have not used it to its full extent. One of the things that I would like for us to do is to, one, increase the use of it if we keep it on, and then also to follow up on those responses that we get so that we can respond to the input and feedback that we get from our stakeholders in order to help build the trust and connection with our stakeholders.
Any other discussion from the board members?
Can I ask what have we built based upon the information that we gained? Do you know of anything that we have been able to get from the data that informed anything that we did?
Well, we've used it, I believe, I have to go back and look at the specific, what they call exchanges that we launched. I know we did one right before COVID when we went to the virtual platform, and we were able to get feedback from families and staff on our approach to handling COVID and then our response to handling COVID. We also used it for, I'd have to look back. I think we used it at least 3 or 4 times in the past couple of years. So like I said, we haven't utilized it the way that we could in order to get, I think, the full benefit of the tool. But I think if we used it and incorporated that feedback in the things that we're doing, I think you would see the value a lot more obviously.
If we put it in the context of our moving forward, is there any reason we have to do it right now? Can we,
Contractually, it's the contract. The contract is, if we were going to cancel it, we would have had to cancel it 30 days ago, or now longer than that, because we've carried it over from last month. So contractually, we kind of have to.
Okay.
I just would like to say that I'm not in disagreement with what Ms. Williams is saying about the program. I will say this though, is there a point person that operates the program? Is there a point person that understands the different metrics and reports that can be run?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
And we can train additional people. That's no problem. Our account representative is more than happy to train additional people to use the tool. It's just that it's kind of landed in my lap, and that's where it's been.
I've got one question. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is there an existing a tool that allows us to use to reach families in the same capacity? It sounds like this is a tool with lots of potential, even though we have not used it to its fullest extent. And the second part of that question is how do we plan to expand the capacity of the use of it in the coming years?
I'm sorry, my laptop's about to die. I'm just trying to plug it back in. The first question is, I'm sorry, can you repeat the first question again?
Good, I'll be more succinct. Is there a comparable tool to this communication piece, and what's the plan for expanding on the capacity?
Thank you, sorry about that. This is what they call, I forget, it's like a single source provider. So their technology and tools that they use is unique to this organization, to this company. So the only similar type of tool will be your typical Google form that you send out to get feedback. But the difference is that with this one, like I said, the people who respond to your thought exchange or your exchange, they actually see other responses. So for example, if we did a thought exchange on summer school, let's just use that for an example. And if you ask the question, what features would you like to see at summer school? And so you put in your open-ended response. I think summer school should be more academic enrichment, blah, 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 blah. And so Ms. Johnson, she completes the form, but then she sees all the responses of the other people. And so she can comment on those responses. So it's almost like you're having a conversation virtually. And so from that, they're able to extract trends. They can extract what is an overall theme in the responses, what type of responses were positive, what kind of responses were negative, and they can provide that complete report to you. And so that's where the value comes in, because then you see that insight from your respondents, and then you can act on those things, or you can go back and tell your respondents after you've seen it, thank you for your response, but we're going to do this based on this information that we received from it. So it's a pretty robust tool, and it can be used. I want to say Parkway uses it a lot. Afton uses it. I want to say Kirkwood uses it. So it's really one of those tools where they've been able to really get good insight to help them with their larger projects. But you can also use it internally. Like I said, we've done it internally as well.
Thanks, Sharifa.
You're welcome.
Any more discussion? All right, there's a motion on the floor to adopt the consent agenda items as presented. All in favor, aye.
Sheila's trying to speak and she's muted.
Sheila, you,
Sorry, I'm on the mute thing. I was just trying to get a point of clarity here. There were two items that were offered for withdrawal. We have spoken to one. And if Mr. Humphrey doesn't want his motion amended to take off the other one, what are we doing? What are we voting on? I guess that's my question.
well, we have, so we got a first and a second to approve the agenda items, and then the discussion. From the discussion, is there an amendment to the consent agenda items as presented?
Yeah, that's
If we're going to,
that's my question.
yeah. So,
Can you all hear me?
yes,
Okay, for some reason, I just want for the record, my camera is not on because apparently when I started the Zoom, my camera was unplugged. And once I went on the Zoom, it wouldn't connect back. So that's why my camera's not on. I guess the thing I would say about this is that because communication is looking to enhance and make more robust their communication strategy to the staff, I think it's something that we need to actually keep, because the better we get at communication, I think it'll help us down the road. So I think from that standpoint alone, the thought exchange to me is a valuable tool that we just need to fully utilize, because right now anything we can do to enhance our communication is a good thing.
Here's my, can I say something here? Could we vote to say that the two items will be acted on as action items? We could agree to everything else on the agenda. And so if the motion is to approve the consent agenda without 302 and 303, I think or whatever those numbers are, I think we could move forward. So then we could vote on the thought exchange and we could vote on the other things separately and we'd be done.
Okay.
so Mr. Humphrey, are you, do you intend, are you going to amend the motion? Because it's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, at this point, I'm willing to amend the motion, and I would say that that item 3.02 and 3.03 would actually be moved to items for action, and that the remaining items on the consent agenda would be approved as outlined.
Okay.
And does the second remain in place?
It is second.
Okay, now we
Okay.
can vote.
It's been moved and properly seconded to adopt the agenda, consent agenda items with the amendment of 3.02 and 3.03 moved to items for action. Did I state the motion correctly?
Yes.
All right, let's call for a vote. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same privilege. Motion is carried. So we proceed in terms of, so do we, that was the only,
Thought exchange.
yeah. All right, so let's proceed with the thought exchange on these two particular items. We want to carry on with 3.02.
That's
Yes,
it.
if it's an item for action, I guess we would have to have a motion to approve it. And
Yeah.
then once we've had a motion and a second, we can either vote it up or down.
All right,
Right.
so, all right. So
I'd like to ask a question before we go on. Has Mr. Dr. Petty's opinion been influenced in any way by the discussion?
Yes, my opinion has been influenced in that we've been informed that in essence, we're under contract to proceed.
Hmm.
So, you know, that's in and of itself will change one's opinion. How do we get out of the contractual obligation? So I'm willing to concede that one, and we'll vote to approve that. I have a lot of confidence in Ms. Williams, and I believe what she says. I believe she's going to make great use of the tool. I think that she was forthright in saying that there's great potential that's been left on the table with the tool, and in recognition of that, she knows how to use the tool and move forward. She's that point person to run the data and the reports and the metrics. And so I can concede and yield that we move forward with that one.
So
And
I
if
move
I
that
can,
we,
I was gonna say, and I'll add in the future, when we get like 90 days out before renewal time, we'll bring it back to the board for review, and we can look at if we need to continue with the tool or not.
okay, I move that we approve the thought exchange.
So move.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the item for action thought exchange contract. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same privilege. The ayes have it. Moving on to the second item for action, item 3.03. Teacher recruitment agreement.
If I'll start the conversation, I clearly understand the concerns of Dr. Petty, but what I'll say is this, is well known that there's a teacher shortage nationally, locally, regionally. And what this does, while I do understand the financial implications, it gives us another opportunity to reach teachers that we otherwise would not have. I know that because of the requirements within HR, they're going to give due diligence to make sure that any teachers are coming will meet the necessary certification qualifications. And I'm sure his concerns around being culturally relevant and competent would be considered as well. I also think it's a plus to the academic environment when you have other people from other cultures, because it creates an additional opportunity for learning. So I'll just, so for me, that I'm good with it at this point.
So with that, is it, go ahead, Ms. Sheila.
I just wanted to say, I understand Mr. Humphries, and I also understand Dr. Petty's concern. My feeling is the fact that we've started this teacher building process, but whatever the university is or whatever, trying to grow our own kind of issue that Mr. Robinson brought to us. I think every effort possible should be put into that. I don't see value in the global education issue. I don't. So that's the way I feel about it.
Well, right now, based on my understanding of the grow your own, I think there's probably three, not more, probably about 3 teachers currently in the program.
Well, we can put more effort into it. That's why I just see that has more value. That's just the way I feel about it. So I'm ready to vote. We
I
can go.
do have another comment.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am also concerned about a reoccurring $7,000 fee for all of those employees, all of those the international teachers that we recruit. In essence, we are expending an additional $7,500 per employee on a reoccurring basis. And I think with that increase in the per cost per teacher salary, that could be better used as a recruitment opportunity or development opportunity. So at this point, I do want to go on record that I am not content with this proposed expenditure as it is presented. I would open up a discussion for a pilot of some sort. Is this the first time that we've done this? Do we have any results? But making a long-term commitment to this kind of endeavor, I don't think is wise financially.
I think this is the first time.
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Any,
And may I-
go ahead, proceed.
Thank you. I do appreciate, this is Sarah, by the way, and my camera is not on because I was driving my mom to an appointment, to and from an appointment. but I just wanted to provide some additional information, and I appreciate everyone's comments and perspectives. And this is the first year that we would even engage or propose to engage in this situation or in this agreement with GEC. And I do understand all of the concerns. I'll start with the qualifications of the teachers. Yes, we would vet them within HR. They must have a Missouri teacher certification. They cannot be hired without that. And they must be fluent in English. And we would be looking specifically for teachers that have a background in urban education. With all of that said, along with going through the interview process and GEC would take care of all the background checks and everything related to immigration. With that said, I would like to propose at least using it as a pilot this year to collect data to see how it works in light of the teacher shortage that we have across the nation. Within our own collaborative, our own district, we had 22 positions that remained open throughout the year, despite our best efforts to recruit. And then to Ms. Sheila's point about the Normandy Teaching Fellows program, we have put forth a lot of effort trying to recruit, and we continue to do that, and we'll continue to have that in the forefront. We have hired on over 30 substitutes, and only 3 or 4, I would say 4 now, because we just recently engaged another sub or teacher in the Normandy Fellows program that are in the program, and we've been promoting this program since October, November timeframe, and we still haven't grown the numbers significantly. So we are continuing to reach out to universities, and we're planning to engage our retirees again and do some additional recruitment along with sororities and fraternities, and continue all of those professional collaborations to try to get as many applicants and qualified individuals through the door who are either wanting to change their career trajectory and go into education, or those who are already educators and wanting to join Normandy. However, I think the GEC program gives us an opportunity to tap into a workforce that we have not currently tapped into, that may be very beneficial to us, just in seeing if this is a viable pool for us, whether it garners us 5 or 10 teachers, at least we will have certified teachers before our students instead of substitutes, or we just won't have teachers for certain levels, and to me, that's unacceptable.
Thank you for that clarification. But I want to make a point of reference very clear. Number one, I'm not so sure that it's fiscally responsible to be duplicitous in what we fund as a board. I believe that that's the job of recruiting, is what the HR department is already supposed to be doing. Second of all, recruitment matters not so much when it's not coupled with the retention piece. I'd like to push back on what Mr. Humphrey said about a teacher shortage everywhere. They don't have a teacher shortage in Clayton. They don't have a teacher shortage in Ladue. They don't have a teacher shortage in Kirkwood. And that's because people want to be there. If we don't do something to change the culture and climate of our schools, all of our recruitment efforts will be null and void, because we won't be able to retain those teachers. I did spend 2 hours in Jefferson Elementary, and I have some idea about what that feels like, recruitment and retention, and what it means to hold on to good people. It's not about necessarily licensure or them having a Missouri teaching certificate. It's about what content and coursework was a part of their teacher education preparation program. For example, were they required to take any sociology, psychology, behavior modification? Were any of these types of courses included in their teacher preparation programs? One can become licensed, but if they don't have that core content coursework to back them up, when they get in front of a classroom with 24 kids, it's just that, 24 against one teacher and 24 kids. So long story short, it doesn't make sense for us to pay a premium on taking a huge risk. There's nothing that will prevent any one of us in an HR department for making the same recruitment efforts that we paying them to do. It's a matter of building relationships and partnerships and figuring out contacts with different universities and whatnot. And we can do the same thing that they're doing. We're paying them to do something we can do ourselves. So with that being said, I'm ready to vote on it.
Well, the chair, if there's no more discussion, the chair will entertain a motion to approve this action item.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I think Dr. Petty has made some really salient points as it pertains to the notion of it really doesn't matter who you recruit into the system if the system cannot support them professionally and personally, then those folks are not going to stay at Normandy. They're going to move on to some other place. And the research is really compelling around people who are willing to take pay cuts for quality of life, move from one district to another district in an effort to find a place where they have less traumatic circumstances that they encounter on a daily basis. What I would offer, though, in support of the program that's proposed is if St. Louis County catches a cold, then Normandy got the flu relative to teacher shortage. Right now at our high school, we don't have but one teacher who is certified to teach science. And so if this source can get us some of the content areas we struggle to bring to the table, whether that's science for our high school, mathematics for our middle school students, those content areas, if they can help us source that, it's probably worth $7,000. And the potential dialect barrier, if there is one, to help get our kids access to the content. I think Sheila's point is well made about our need to invest deeply in training our own folk, because there is no cavalry coming. And so how do we find those great former Vikings, those great accountants and business people, those great entrepreneurs or retailers who want to transition into education, and how do we help to facilitate that? I think that's got to be a major thrust of how we're thinking about recruitment, especially when those people live in the footprint. We'll be immersed in alumni activities and connected to the people who live in the various municipalities. However, in the meantime and in between time, I think there's still a question of, in August, we need properly trained folks in content areas to show up for the kids. And this might yield us some good folks. It may not, but if it can get us the kind of access to science and math people we need, I think it's worth at least a look. And if it doesn't work, then if we don't wind up getting the right people, or some of those other things, I think that makes sense. But the cost, as I've seen it compared to other search firms for teachers, is not out of hand. I've paid as much as $30,000 just to get a Kelly sub to convert to a full-time teacher in an organization. And so there is some kind of sourcing fee. I'm not sure that the $7,000 is exorbitant, but I think Dr. Petty is absolutely right. It can't be the crutch. It can't be the thrust of the overall recruitment strategy. And so if it is one arrow in the quiver, it's probably worth consideration. But Normandy has to be more creative as it pertains to how it's going to be staffed and not be overly reliant on programs like GEC.
Thank you,
So-
Mr. Robinson. If I could have one more comment, please. If I would like for a modification to be made in this proposal for us to evaluate. With Mr. Robinson's insight, I would like to see a proposal that says that this is a short-term arrangement and that there are additional performance evaluations that are associated with this, and a negotiated fee around retention and what happens around evaluation of these the teachers that we recruit. The last thing I'd like to see is for us to hire some folks on, make a commitment to the $7,000, and then realize halfway through the year that this person is not going to work, but we've committed to $7,000 to paying this recruitment agency. And so before we make a motion to approve, I'd like to give our HR folks an opportunity to present us with another version, but we could just vote it down and then they could bring it back to us. But with that being said.
No, I appreciate that, Mr. Hodge. It sounds like actually you were framing that as a motion. Is that basically a modification to what's being presented? And it sounds like you were going in the direction of a motion. So if that's where we're going, I'd like to continue in that vein.
Yeah, no, I actually, I move that we vote on the proposal the way that it's been presented.
Okay, it's a motion on the floor. Mr. Hodges has presented it. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded that we adopt the agreement as presented. Is there any more discussion around this issue?
I'd like to just call for a roll call vote on it.
I agree. Thank you, Dr. Petty. But given the discussion around this issue, we'd like to proceed with a roll call vote. Ms. Barnett? Ms. Barnett, are you there?
She's on mute right now.
Dr. Petty,
No.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Hodge,
No.
Ms. Sheila,
No,
Mr. Neal,
You're on mute, Mr.
She's
Neal.
on mute right now.
Sorry, yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Yes,
So can you tally the votes one more, just for us, Ms. Barnett?
she's on mute again.
yes, is that one?
I'm sorry?
He's asking what's the vote count?
Yeses, there was 3 yeses and, no, 3 yeses, no, 4 yeses and 2 nos.
By virtue of 4 ayes and 2 noes, the motion is carried. The
Oh.
agreement is adopted.
sorry, that
I think there was 3 and 3.
was 3 and 3, I think, yeah.
Oh, I thought she said 4 and 3. Okay, sorry, I said corrected. So with that being the case, the
No,
actual
I said
motion-
3 and 3. I'm sorry, I miscounted. I apologize.
So there are 3 ayes and 3 noes. So that means the motion is not carried. So how do you want to proceed with this, in terms of discussion in light of this? It doesn't sound like it's something that is completely dead, but there's some modifications that can come back and they can present it at another time. What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, one suggestion, in talking with some other departments that are in receipt of similar grant funds, they took the $75,000 and hired one person for 1 year to work on recruitment and retention efforts. Therefore, the district is not on the hook for any additional costs or fees, and you have a person that can really look at recruiting and have those a solid pair of eyes on it. And it's an in-house person that works for the district. I know that that's what they're doing in Clayton with similar grant dollars and in some of our other neighboring districts. And I don't think, you know, as Mr. Hodge was saying, if there was a proposal, something similar to that could change the tenure of the discussion.
Is that something that can be taken up by the administration and bring forth at a later date?
Absolutely. We'll absolutely take into account all the feedback we've received today and restructure our strategy and come back to the board in a month with a different way of thinking about some of our recruitment.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. With that being the case, so that concludes items for action. We will now, we'll move to executive session in accordance with state statute to discuss legal and personnel items. We'll do that by roll call vote. Ms. Barnett?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Dr. Petty,
Yes.
Mr. Hodge,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll proceed with the executive session. We'll see you. Have a good evening, and we'll see the remainder of the board in exec session.